Ladies, young ladies, and gentlemen, good evening again. Good evening, everyone. All. Top news stories internationally. Russia becomes uncontrollable after admitting failure of the United States of America. On this 14th in November 2025, Russia dumped, that is to say, it is a deluge of fire that Russia has poured on the Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, which will be massively affected. That is to say, the way in which the capital, the Ukrainian woman was hit, she didn't have never been hit like this before. It seemed that Russia wants now to bring down all his enemies. Russia wants to put to death all those who, they say, why Russia, which thought it to deliver on a health walk, he, Putin, who thought he was engaging in a walk in the park in Ukraine, which thought he will get back all of the Ukrainian territory in 3 days or in 3 weeks. Why has he continued for the past 10 years? We saw I think it's one of the German officials had said so. So in relation to all the statements, the Russia is very, very revolted. Never before has the capital Kiev was targeted in this way. Ukrainian citizens are overwhelmed, disappointed and overwhelmed. Thus, when America says they have exhausted all economic sanctions on any plan concerning the Russia, that means that they don't have no more solutions. Meanwhile, the Ukraine's true financial backers accuse Zelensky's regime of being a corrupt regime. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, is already accusing he's accusing Zelensky not to fight energetically, I was going to say, against corruption. So that's what makes financial aid granted to Ukraine is stopped. That's suspended for the moment. So Ukraine no longer has the means to wage his struggle. There are no more soldiers in the streets of Ukraine. We stop people, even pizza delivery guys, we arrest them and send them directly on the side of the camp. Rapid training for a few days, and then we send them to the front. When they go to the front, the Russia also accompanies them on the arrest eternal with their God. So ultimately, the population is disappointed. Secondly, those in the capital had never imagined that the capital Ukrainian could be facing such a reality of rain, fire of Russian missiles. So they are completely disoriented. So what happened in concrete terms within the context of this video conference? This is the news we are going to discuss. Speak. But before we continue, agree to share the conference at maximum in all groups. If possible, give it lots of likes. And if you are new here, click on the subscribe button. Please subscribe. This allows you to no longer miss the hottest news of the moment. Let's go into the depths then. So it's a fire, it's a deluge of fire is raging in the Ukrainian capital. It is an exceptional volume of shots, Kiev, by a massive wave composed of several types of weapons. That is to say, this time Russia has combined arms again. Russia is accustomed to making weapon combinations, but this time Russia raised the level. Cruise missiles have been launched. Kamikaze drones ballistic missiles were launched. Combined systems aimed at saturating air defenses have been launched. All kinds of missiles, missile of cruise ship, kamikaze drone, missile ballistics, combined system of saturation, everything was dumped on Ukraine. And what's the result? Damage. Huge, I tell you. But if Russia continues on this path, this would mean that it's just a matter of hours, a matter of days and of weeks or even months for that the Ukrainian capital can to fall. Because the majority of localities that Russia has conquered, that's how they started the saturation technique. They went regularly with this saturation technique, which made many cities are falling. and that's the same technique as Russia is in, trying to be redirected towards the capital Ukrainian. So it must be said that Moscow has launched a strategic level strike, not a symbolic strike. This time, this is a strike of strategic importance, militarily very high. If usually Kiev was hit by airstrikes symbolic, this time it's no longer of cases. So the population is in panic, as I said. The sirens are uninterrupted. The sirens just keep wailing all day. So the inhabitants are running in all directions. The exhibitions and explosions follow one after another. In other words, it just keeps exploding. Columns of smoke that are visible from several neighborhoods of the capital. Several districts are plunged into darkness already. That Ukraine was already in the dark. But with these explosions, it targets everything that is energetic. That's what really gets it. Where we have cruise missiles, drones kamikaze, missile I don't know what, kamikaze drones, missiles, ballistics, all of that we send at once, not to mention saturation systems, the combined saturation systems that Russia uses it for its strikes. But it must be said that Russia has proceeded to specific targets. And these specific targets of Russia, Russia has reached these targets and that has created damage. Major damage, as we used to say at the entrance of the conference. So, energy infrastructure, priority areas were affected. Electrical substations have been destroyed. Centers of high-speed distribution and network tensions were targeted in a way coordinated. That is to say, it's not the only missile that comes. The missile comes accompanied by these other brothers. Missiles are coming. That's what I mean, only strikes. So the immediate fact is that we have witnessed a power outage. The metro was stopped. Communication Hasoma was disrupted. We are talking about the Kiev, the Ukrainian capital. The military installations of and defenses were also affected. Ammunition depots were hit. Logistics centers were affected. Air defense radars have been affected. Russia seeks to remove the torn Ukrainian military backbone. This time, Russia really did very, very strong. If Russia repeats the same thing for 3, 4, or 5 days, Kiev will fall. Kiev will fall. That's it. Automatic. So, why now? Russia is striking and proceeding to such a gigantic strike. That gigantic, it's a replica, direct response to Western provocations. That is why Russia proceeded to that strike. There was a delivery of new Western armaments, missiles of long range, new promises from the anti-aircraft system. There was an announcement, French and American support reinforced. So Moscow saw all of this. Moscow said, okay, listen, that's fine. I'm going to roster. So you have to hit hard first to deter. That's the technique that the Russia used. And the message that was sent was that Kiev is no longer a protected zone. And so, ladies, young ladies, and gentlemen, that was the front page of the news. Thank you for sharing it. Maximum, I'll get back to you in a little while with new news. It was, of course, the voice of your humble servant, Robert.